Rohingya crisis, Myanmar Army Chief urges for people who were internally displaced by violence in Rakhine State to go home and rebuild communities. Is this ethnic cleansing? Who are the Rohingya? Why Myanmar is not accepting the Rohingyas? Why are the Rohingya fleeing Myanmar? Why is Bangladesh having a problem with the Rohingya? What is India's stance on the Rohingyas? Why India isn't ready to accept Rohingyas? What are the issues associated with Rohingyas in India? GS Paper 2, India and its neighbours. What is the context about? Myanmar's army chief called for people internally displaced by violence in Rakhine State to go home and rebuild communities, but he made no mention of 422,000 Rohingya Muslims who fled to Bangladesh to escape his forces' operations. Is this ethnic cleansing? The United Nations has said the military response to the insurgent attacks is ethnic cleansing, aimed at pushing the Rohingya Muslim community out of Buddhist-majority Myanmar. Myanmar denies that, saying its forces are waging a legitimate campaign against Muslim terrorists, who have been attacking and torching villages of Buddhists and other non-Muslims, some 30,000 of whom were internally displaced. Who are the Rohingya? The Rohingya are Burma's Muslim minority who reside in the northern parts of the Rakhine region, historically known as Arakan, a geographically isolated area in western Burma, bordering Bangladesh. The Rohingya are ethnically, linguistically, and religiously different from Myanmar's dominant Buddhist community. The Rakhine region is Myanmar's least developed region, with more than 78% of households living below the poverty line. About 1.1 million Rohingyas are said to live in Myanmar's Rakhine region. Why Myanmar is not accepting the Rohingyas? The British annexed the Rakhine region in 1824-26. They encouraged migration from India. Successive Burmese governments have maintained that the Rohingyas are illegal migrants from India and Bangladesh, and have refused to recognize them as one of the country's 135 ethnic groups. They have been living in the Southeast Asian country for generations. Myanmar considers them as persons who migrated to their land during the colonial rule. So, it has not granted Rohingyas full citizenship. According to the 1982 Burmese citizenship law, Rohingyas, or any ethnic minority, are eligible for citizenship only if they have lived in the country prior to 1823. Why are the Rohingya fleeing Myanmar? The Rohingyas have been the targets of violence perpetrated by both the state as well as Buddhist nationalist groups. They are denied basic rights, restrictions are placed on marriage, employment, religious choice. Coupled with this, the abysmal poverty and lack of development in the Rakhine region had fueled Rohingya migration. Why is Bangladesh having a problem with the Rohingya? An estimated 87,000 Rohingya have fled Myanmar to Bangladesh since late 2016. The influx has been increasing since August 25. About 5 lakh Rohingyas have already taken shelter in Bangladesh over the last 2 decades. What is India's stance on the Rohingyas? India is home to approximately 40,000 Rohingyas, according to the Ministry of Home Affairs. They have reportedly reached India from Bangladesh through the land route over the years. About 16,500 Rohingya living in India are registered with the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, but their actual numbers are much higher. The UNHCR says Rohingya refugees are spread across 6 locations in India: Jammu, New in Haryana's Mewat district, Delhi, Hyderabad, Jaipur, and Chennai. Why India isn't ready to accept Rohingyas. In the absence of a well-defined refugee policy backed by a law passed by Parliament, India won't be able to accommodate Rohingyas, as their stay in the country will give a spin to political narrative. What are the issues associated with Rohingyas in India? Rohingyas have acquired documents meant for Indian citizens only, like Aadhaar, PAN and voter ID. This raises the concern of naturalization of illegal migrants by fraudulent means. Given the socio-economic complexities of Indian society and politics, soon there may be a debate around the minority rights of the Rohingyas. In the absence of a law to deal with refugees, their identification and surveillance will become difficult, especially when the intelligence agencies have warned the jihadi terror outfits are looking to exploit the vulnerability of Rohingyas. Are Rohingyas really posing a security threat in India? As a PTI report, the centre had claimed that illegal immigrants like Rohingyas pose grave security challenges as they may be recruited by terror groups. The Union Home Ministry also noted that the rise of terrorism in last few decades has become a serious concern for most nations, as illegal migrants are more vulnerable to getting recruited by terrorist organizations.